Hello, I'm Jenny Bellard from Center College. I am a professor of Spanish, and today I'm going to present Collaborative International Partners as part of the ACS workshop on educational practices for remote language learning. What I'm going to present is based on my experience over the past several years working with a university in Colombia called La Universidad del Norte. And my school, Center College, is a small liberal arts college of 1,400 people. We teach language classes in my program, language, literature, and culture classes. We have a major in Spanish, and all professors in my program also teach outside of the program. We teach first year studies courses and other courses abroad, such as courses in Latin American studies and African American studies. What I'm going to present is is something that could be used in any language class. In order to do the work that I've done, I worked with our Center for Teaching and Learning at Center College because they helped me and they helped the students, teaching us how to use the technology that we used to make a collaborative interaction possible. And my partner, um, Heidi Robles at La Universidad del Norte, worked with um, the CEDU, which is similar to our CTL, to help her students get in touch with my students. So um, during this presentation, I'm going to cover the following four things. I'm going to talk about the benefits to this approach. I'm going to talk about how to design activities, and I'm going to give several sample activities. I'm going to talk about how to assess collaborative activities and how to find and keep working with a collaborative partner. This is Center College in Danville, Kentucky, and this is La Universidad del Norte in Barranquilla, Colombia, which is a private school of about 16,000 students. So to start, I want to talk about the benefits to this approach. The benefits to the approach go beyond improving linguistic competence in the target language, and they include, I would say, first and foremost, um, the idea of collaboration. So students working together to produce something else, to produce work with someone else. And this is an international collaboration, and it's a collaboration that is done remotely always for the past several years. Um, it obviously improves the linguistic competence of the students because they are working with students who speak the target language that I'm teaching. And the students in Colombia are learning English. Some of the lessons, some of the activities are in English, and some of the activities are in Spanish. So there's reciprocity as well. This serves for internationalization, and internationalization at home or on your home campus is important, especially now with travel restrictions. But it's always important because not all students have the financial ability or the physical ability to be able to travel abroad and interact with students in other countries. One of the benefits is cultural competence, and I'll talk to you about how my partner and I observe changes and improvements to cultural competence. So we measure cultural competence, and I'll talk to you about how we do that. Um, so first, I want to talk about the types of interconnected activities that our students have taken part in and continue to take part in because we're getting ready to start our next round of this exchange in just a few weeks. So one of the first activities that we usually do is that students from both universities make videos of themselves to introduce themselves. This isn't a graded activity, and we don't monitor this activity. They don't turn it into us. It's a way for them to start a connection with each other. Um, in almost every semester that we've had this exchange, students write reflective essays in class about conversations that they have with their partners. That way, they might be interacting in English, they might be interacting in Spanish, but what they write in the class as a reflective essay, they write in the target language. Students in every semester have recorded video conversations that they have with their partners. And so far, every semester that we've done this, we have a culminating activity where the students give a live presentation sharing clips from recorded conversations that they've had with their partners, and they reflect on similarities and differences in campus life in both places. So, just a quick note about technology. We ask the students to connect with each other, and the first thing we ask them to share is their email. But then we ask them to quickly move out of email and find a different way to communicate with each other. Um, we don't monitor the conversations that they have. We grade assignments that they have based on those conversations. But our students in the past were not as familiar with platforms like WhatsApp um, or Zoom for communicating. After being in quarantine and learning remotely in the spring, we can assume that our students are more familiar with these ways of communicating. But what we've done in the past is take some time out of class and practice. We have them download a way to talk to each other. If they and their partner have FaceTime, they might choose to communicate that way. They might use Facebook Messenger, they might use Zoom, or they might use WhatsApp. And we show them in class time how to use these kinds of platforms. And so we design a different activity that is not with their international partner in the class so that we can see them using the technology. So here's some suggestions for professors that are interested in implementing something like this. I recommend that the that you work with someone who is willing to get to know you and works well with you, someone that you have similar um, pedagogical goals um, and aligned learning outcomes with. So first of all, teachers, professors from both countries must be willing to get to know each other. You have to find someone whose academic discipline fits well with yours. It doesn't have to be the same academic discipline. And in fact, language professors can work well with professors in many different fields. But I've found that working with other language professors works particularly well because because of because the the learning outcomes are similar. Students have to be given sufficient time and motivation to complete the activities. We made the mistake early on in our collaboration of cramming too many activities into the semester. My recommendation is to start small with one or two interactions and then build up to more. Students and teachers have to have sufficient access to technology in order to be able to collaborate. And so you have to have a scaffolded exercise where you have lots of ways to check in before a culminating activity or before an activity that's going to be assessed that requires technology, because there could be challenges on both sides here in the United States and in with your partner abroad. Activities have to be planned well in advance and announced to the students so that they know what they're getting into. I recommend that you plan all of the activities before the semester or very early in the semester. And I recommend choosing assessment instruments before the semester begins. I'll talk a little bit more about my assessment instruments for these kinds of activities a little later. So, what kinds of products do the students submit? um, Students, this comes directly from part of an assignment that my students had a few semesters ago. And so we find it helpful to work from the same document. That could be a Word online, that could be a Google Doc, that but so that both people, since the activities are collaborative, both people have access to the document that the students are using. We ask them, we have specific directions for what needs to go on the document, and then we ask them to share the document with both professors. So we both professors are grading assignments, and both professors get to see the documents. So um, this I just wanted to say this early on in the presentation, that it's really important to keep in mind that not only are you as a professor taking a risk, inviting other people that into your classroom space, inviting another professor with a whole different set of ideas into your classroom, the but also the students are taking a risk in that they are early on, they're going to have to use the target language with someone that they don't know, and work through some sticky problems like technology and schedules and different cultures, and so I think it's important to constantly check in with students and address that and acknowledge that they're taking a risk, moving outside of their very comfortable classroom on their small liberal arts campus, and branching out into the world and interacting with someone from a different culture. Okay, so how do we assess collaborative activities? For me, it has been very important to use rubrics. I have a specific rubric for writing, one for presentations, and a different one for intercultural competence. So I make sure that the students have a rubric before each one of the assignments. It's actually, I attach the rubrics to the assignments that I share with the students so that they know, so it's clear. There are so many parts of this that are complicated and confusing, but it puts the students at ease if they know exactly what is expected of them. And so on the website, I'm going to link up the rubrics that I use, and you could adjust them if they're useful to you. You could use them as well. I found that it is really important in collaborative online international projects to give clear, quick feedback so that they are encouraged to keep on talking to their partner. So feedback and then next assignment. Um, I have made it an important sustained part of my course. I can imagine models where there's just a one-time collaboration or a week-long collaboration, but I've made it a sustained part of most of my courses for the past several years. So there are several activities um, that the students do together, and it gives them time to to form a relationship with someone in a different country. But if you do choose to do that, it means that you have to take something out. So if you're putting this component, if you're putting in a collaborative online international learning component into your class, then something has to come out. Um, you have to do less of something else. So I think it's important to make sure that all assignments are collaborative. All of the assignments have to have input from both partners. One partner can't do the whole assignment and get credit for it. And so you have to check in the construction of the assignment to make sure that it is actually a collaborative assignment, making sure that they are working together outside of class to produce something that that you will evaluate. A really important part of this um, is reflection. We do reflection before the semester starts and after the semester ends, but we also do reflection um, either orally or in writing at several points during the semester. So, um, w- um, like I mentioned, rubrics, and I wanted to reiterate that the students should see the rubric um, before they begin the assignment. And I use for two types of assignments, I use the AACNU value rubrics, which are available to you free online, and I'll also link them on the website. So I'm going to talk through a sample assignment that I have that was fairly successful. So one of the first assignments that I did last semester is a music assignment. And what my students did was they wrote about themselves and they considered what kind of music represents them in their country. Most of my students are from the United States. Most, not all, of my students were from the United States in last semester, and they wrote about music that is from the United States and then specifically from their region of the country. And then we talked in class about the Star Spangled Banner, our national anthem, and we talked about other anthems. So we talked about um, we talked about Lee Greenwood's um, anthem. We talked about America the Beautiful. We talked about Miley Cyrus, Party in the USA, Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. We talked about Childish Gambino's This Is America. We saw clips from several videos, and we had a conversation about um, a national anthem. And then we talked about regional anthems and regional music. And after that, the students chose a song that represents them, and it would be their personal anthem. And they wrote this up in an essay of a couple of paragraphs, and then they included the song that represents them in a link to YouTube or to Spotify to share with their Colombian partner. And then their Colombian partner did the same. And after that, the students together wrote an essay. My students in my students write in Spanish, and my partner Heidi's students write in English. They wrote an essay comparing um, the songs that they each chose. So these are some other sample activities since my students work with students in Barranquilla, where there's the second largest carnival in the world. They um, we had a lesson this year on Carnaval de Barranquilla, and we have we did a lesson last semester about um, about racial integration in schools and American football. We all saw the film Remember the Titans, and my students met their partners over um, in a video conversation, and they recorded their conversation on Zoom, and then they sent the video to both of the professors. Now, this assignment, we designed this assignment while we thought we would be giving class to students in class in our classrooms, but this assignment we had to carry out remotely, and and it worked well. So moving the collaborative online international learning components of my class last semester um, to teaching remotely went very smoothly. Um, One of the activities we've done for many, many semesters is we talk about immigration from Mexico and Central America. We talk about undocumented immigration in the United States. And my partner who teaches at Uninorte, her students all have think a lot about Venezuelan immigration into Colombia. And so we see a film, we usually choose a film for several semesters. We've seen the film A Better Life, and we work with that film together. They see the film um, in Colombia, we see the film, and then the students have conversations about it. What's graded is not we don't grade their WhatsApp conversations. We grade an essay that the students write about that conversation. So the semester that's coming up, our students, Heidi and I have chosen to teach two films. We're teaching a Venezuelan film called Bad Hair, and then we're teaching The Hate You Give. We're teaching both of those, and we're talking about racial justice and issues surrounding gender and identity with those two films. So the last thing I want to mention is that um, reflection has to be a really important part of this kind of collaboration. And I found that it's best when reflection is separate from assessment, that you don't grade reflection, that the students have the liberty to express themselves about, first of all, before the semester, before there's any contact, thinking about their expectations and acknowledging their biases. And I um, I find it's best to not grade those kinds of reflection, make them a part of the experience, but don't put a grade on those. Um, so we reflection is sensitive because the students might not, they might have some challenges. So what happens is, in these kinds of pairings, for some students it goes really well and it's excellent and they're both working together very well, and for other students it's much more challenging. And so i I think it's very important to check in with the students very frequently. And this is another reason for having a good relationship with your partner in the other country. Because if a student is not answering email, or if a student says something that is racially insensitive or misogynistic, or makes unwanted romantic advances, you have to address that, and you have to address it immediately. And you have to work with your partner if it happens in the other country, and you have to work with your students if it happens in your class. We have followed up with a final reflection in the semesters that we've done this. And often we have them reread the reflection prompt, and their answer to the prompt that they wrote about their expectations, and circle back to that and say what has changed about the way that, what they know about Colombia, what they know about Colombians, what they know about their partner, and how is that different from what they expected. Okay, so before I share these other sample assignments, I want to talk really quickly about how do you find a partner. So I found my partner by reaching out to what is the Center for Teaching and Learning at several different schools in Colombia, because I knew I wanted a Colombian partner, because I have been teaching Colombian film and music in my classes, and culture and politics and history, but I didn't have much direct experience with Colombia before I was a U.S. Fulbright scholar there last year. And so I wanted a Colombian partner, and so I reached out to several different departments, and the CTLs at school, and that's how I found my partner. And she, at the same time, was looking for a partner. The State University of New York system has COIL, the collaborative online learning system, is a huge part of what they do at many different SUNY campuses. And so if you talk to if you talk to professors at SUNY that are doing this, they also have lots of recommendation. Also, there is a website called Linker, which I'll put that, I have that already linked onto the website. And Linker helps professors find professors for collaboration, for lots of different, for one-time collaboration, for sustained collaboration, and it's a free service. And you can set up the interactions can happen all on that website, or you could also just meet someone on that website, um, and then go from there. Another really great source for finding partners is especially in this year when we can't travel abroad, is connecting with your Center for Global Citizenship or Study Abroad office and talking to them about the partner institutions that your school has abroad, and what and finding out if there are professors that would normally have interaction and contact with your students, because your students would be traveling abroad, that are interested in this kind of interaction. But you guys are all language professors, and so I'm sure you have, so it's easier for you to develop this kind of contact. Um, but those are just a couple of quick suggestions. Okay, so here at the end, I'm going to just mention a couple of other ideas for assignments. And so this is a little bit of the wording for the music assignment, which is often the very first assignment that Heidi and I have in our COIL collaboration. Um, this is an example of the students doing that activity. This is my student, Kara, and she was working with Jason. And as you can see, Kara writes in Spanish. This is an intermediate level. Kara writes in Spanish, Jason writes in English. They link their songs and say a little bit about their songs. And this is on a Google Doc where they are talking to each other, and they shared it with me so I can see their conversation. Um, so they have they planned to turn this in. This was a 1 day assignment that they had, and their comments that they made were over to the side. So this is the document that they were turning in, and these are the conversation um, these are parts of the conversation that they were having about the work they were doing. Um, so the second activity that we did in spring of 2018 was an activity about the way our campuses address the environment and environmental impact of the campus. And so the students of both Uninorte and Center College went out onto campus and filmed things like our campus garden, like our LEED certified buildings, like our recycling program. They filmed both positive and negative um, aspects of environmental sustainability and the campus, and the students at Uninorte did the same. So they did this in videos that they sent to each other and that they shared with us. Um, we have another activity that we regularly do is a video about campus life, what it is like to live in on a small in a rural town in dormitories, and then the students in Barranquilla, almost all of them live at home. Almost none of them live in dormitories, and so the students do presentations comparing student life in Danville and Barranquilla. So those are just a couple of sample activities. I really appreciate your time, and I would be happy to discuss this with you more. Thank you. I appreciate it.